Hi, it's Steve again. I'm in the process here at home of very slowly and methodically refurbishing 4 different BOWSER HO Pennsylvania steam locomotives that I've acquired over the last few years. As many of you know, these are no longer manufactured, but you can get them on the internet often. Sometimes require refurbishing, sometimes they're good as is. But I've had these for many, many years and I really like them. They're basically indestructible. The mechanisms are indestructible. The superstructure is made out of heavy metal. The engines have very powerful motors, and I've been told they can pull whatever you put behind them. They're very heavy, very heavy as well. So what I have here, and I acquired these intermittently over the last few years. I try to look for good deals. I have 2 of the Penske L1 Mikados. I have 1 Penske E6 Atlantic and 1 K4 Pacific. So I'll kind of show you what I've done with some of these. Upon receiving them, I disassembled them, which is just takes a screwdriver and take it apart. And you can see over here the boiler castings, and they're fairly rudimentary. Most of them have some cast-on metal detail. Some of the older ones, which may be Penline actually still have a cast-on headlight like this, and some even had a cast-on bell, actually like that. They're very, very, very heavy. And, you know, I mean, that thing probably weighs more than a pound for sure. So, likewise, the tenders that come are pretty much metal. And there's one right here. And what I've done here is I've gone ahead and stripped all the paint off of the superstructure of the locomotive and the tenders. The tenders I've already put a coat of primer on. This tender, however, when I got it, was already painted, though I'm probably going to put another coat of paint over it. So you can see that these 3 are all the same basic casting. That's for the Mikados and the Pacific. The smaller one is for the Atlantic. There's a tender floor, also made out of cast, and you just screw it on the bottom. So what I've decided to do is just do one at a time. This K4, or rather this L1 here, I've done a considerable amount of work on. I've added brass piping on the side here. I've added lines for the sand dome. And actually from BOWSER manufacturing, you can still order parts from HO Scale for detail parts. So I purchased a new bell. I purchased a new headlight, which I didn't mount the light yet, but that's the mounting bracket. This side I haven't done a whole lot to, but I think that one's pretty close to being ready to go. The other thing I've done is I've drilled a hole down just behind the headlight there, down at an angle, comes out underneath here. I don't think you can really see it, for a working headlight or an LED. So this one's pretty close to being ready, and I'll probably later today take it downstairs and prime it. And then once that's done, I'll take one of these tender bodies and I'll paint the both of them. And I already have a set of Penske decals. We'll get it, we'll put some gloss coat on the tender and the cab side. We'll decal it, and then we'll dull coat it and maybe weather it. So they make really, really nice models once they're finished. That happens to be the pilot, which is going to require a little bit of work as well. And that's made out of cast metal. Now the mechanisms, as I say, here's the Atlantic mechanism. That's the Pacific. That's one of the Mikados, 282s, and here's another 282. And they, for the most part, these come with an old DC 70, I think it's a DC 71 Pitman motor. They're very powerful open frame motors. And if you oil them and so on and take care of them, they actually work pretty well and pretty smoothly and offer good torque. The mechanism is pretty standard. It's you can see it here. It's indestructible, really. These things will run for years and years and years. And if you get the gear mesh right, which isn't too hard, and you lubricate everything, make sure the valve gear is done properly, they can run very, very smoothly, actually. Some modelers will elect to scrap out the old motor, put in a gearbox, which obviously would have to, and probably could fit in that slot. You'd have to take the drive wheel off, put a gearbox on, re-quarter the drive wheel, and then use like a can motor. But sometimes the can motors, I don't think, offer the torque of these old DC 71 motors. So the other thing I've had to do is electrically isolate these motors, because I'd planned to put DCC in them. And it's actually not real hard to do. When BOWSER was still making these, on some of these, for instance on this one, you can see that the top part where the spring is, the cover plate used to be brass, but they made a fiber cover plate, which I had several of them. I put that on and it's automatically isolated that way. And then I just run a wire off each brush like that, and it's isolated from the frame. This one, let's see, that's an older DC 71 motor. I had to remove there was a screwed in tab where that open hole is that went to one of the brushes. I merely had to take that out, and that electrically isolated it. So that one's ready to go. And I've tested all these. They all run really smoothly. This is an older motor as well, kind of a similar thing. I had to remove a brass tab that was on the top, and that allowed them to be isolated. So all these are really ready once I get the boilers done. I'll be able to mount the boilers and so on, and the wires are already coming out that I can put a decoder in the tender for them. I probably will do sound decoder, I don't know. But anyway, any of you that have, like the Pennsylvania Railroad, these are really nice models to have. They're definitely a throwback to an older era of machining and so on, but golly, if you build them right, they'll probably outlast anything that you could buy today from any of the modern manufacturers that are made in China. I mean, this stuff is just, you could probably drop it on the floor, it would still run. So that's just a kind of a shout out to the older BOWSER. I can't remember the year they decided to stop making these at their factory in Montoursville, Pennsylvania, but it was probably 20 plus years ago now. But you can still find a lot of stuff online from them. So just thought I'd show those, and maybe I'll do a short clip when I get all these done. I'm not in any hurry. I just do them when I have a little spare time, but yeah, they can look almost as good as a brass model if you add detail to them and paint them very nicely. They can be almost as good as a really fine brass model. So anyway, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.